Howdy.
Good afternoon.
Okay. When we're done, let's stop recording. I have one or two things to discuss, questions, etc.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get my place on the screen.
You rearrange your shelves?
What?
Did you rearrange your shelves?
No, not really. There's just disarray. The few books lying down. Okay, so after Paragraph Gimel, at Kufas Gaonim, let's share that.
Are we close to the end?
We are indeed.
Okay.
Okay, and that in the book is on page Reish Chav Daled, Parak Daled. In the book, there are it's still a lot to go, but there are about 16 prokim. Um, okay. So Gaonim, at Kufa Rishona. We haven't Shnei Shmad. There were years of Shmad with Soros, with So Malchus, Parsim, the end of the Persian kingdom, below Avlichul and Mikvah Pirke, not able to set up uh, times to learn, Usul Masifta, and to even to sit there and have yeshivas. Uh, Midbar Mina Gaonim. In order to, Midbar means to lead like Dabor is a leader, and to conduct the customs of the Gaonim. I besar kamashnin until several years. The Atzur Rabbanan Dilanim Pumbedisa rabbis came from Pumbedisa, this was Narda, and the surroundings of Narda Bimdinsa, the Pro Shvor in the country of Pro Shvor. So a lot to take in here. Not too much uh, here except in the printed version. He says that according to Rabbi Halevi in the Dorj Yishanim, the Shirgon it refers to a period of 30 years, which begins right after the P'tir of Rabbi Rabboi, who was at the end of the last parak, at the about 559 of the Common Era. So about 60 years after the Chasimas Talmud. In this period, there was a fourth and final generation of Savura'im, at the head of which stood Rabbi Giza and Rabbi Sama. I don't think they were mentioned here. I think did he mention them? No, he started with Rabbi Ruboy. Maybe he's going to mention them later in the parak. But in any event, they were Rabbi Giza and Rabbi Sama, and this ended in the year 589. So there were 30 years between 559 and 589, which are times of Shemad and Soros. But he says, but that wasn't the end. The Shemad and Soros, it seems, went on to the year 650 when Yazdagar, the last Persian king, was killed. And with that, there's the end of Sassanid kings. According to that interpretation, according to Shiragon, the period of Savura'im lasted 115 years
Wow.
because it began after Ravina, the latter died, the second died in 475. Okay, so the he doesn't like that, Rabbi Rabinowitz. He says uh, it was that the period of the Kufos was the Gezeros was lasted 50 years. No, that is the. He's not. It doesn't give the alternative. Actually, it says other people disagree. Um, and he says that so we don't know exactly when it began and when it ended clearly, but uh, seems that after year 589, the period of the Gaonim began, even though there were still persecutions. Okay, so then he says the pirkei it's referred to here is the drashos in the base medrash on Shabbos Yom Tov before Musaf. The drashos for the masses and not so much for the chachamim, and they evidently very accepted in Pumbedisa. and they were not allowed to be sustained in Nahar Dor um, at that time. And the Masid, that which he says they weren't able to have yeshivas, that he says the Shugon seems to refer to the shir which is given daily to the students of the Masifta except for Shabbos, uh, when of course the drasha took place. And this daily shir was mandatory for the Talmidim of the yeshiva. There's no references in Shas to that from the Baba Kam and the Dorim Ksubas. And he says that also the normal uh, roles and responsibilities of the Gaonim, he says perhaps it refers to the public communal activities of the Gaonim, of the heads of the yeshivas. Um, so then, and this is desisted from, they weren't able to do this for, it says here, Kamashnin. The question is how much the Kamashnin are. So according to Rabbi Alevi, this is about 10 years after 559 when the Iggeres started. And then they moved over to Nardah, and they started yeshiva, which existed there for about 40 years. So, you know, according to the screen version, this period is called Gaonim Tkufa Rishona. Rabbi, I don't think Rabbi Rabinowitz is learning that way. Rabinowitz, I think, is learning this all part of the time of the Savura'im. In other words,
Okay.
the guy in the print the text the screen version, he made up the title for this chapter. Okay, that's and so that's why he's assuming this began a period of Gaonim, and not necessarily true. Um, I don't know if he gives any dates here. He does. He says in base. Okay. Mishnas Tatak Malach Marav Ashkaya. So it says in Tatkak was 588. Chanem Ashkaya, he says, who Rishon Gaonim. Rav Hai ben Rav Sherira Gaon, who Achron Gaonim. Nimtze Shetkufas Gaonim Nishka 450 Shana, it's 450 years. Echem Mishnas Tatak, which is 558. Shishnas Vidish Rav Chanem Ashkaya. There's Rav Hai Gaon, which is 1038. So 450 years. So I think that he's only this still Rabbanon Savura'im, Rabbi Rabinowitz.
Okay.
Um, he says here that when it says in the text, Besar Elin Milin, so Malchus Parsian, he says, after the time of Shmad, we last from 559 to 589, when the I'm not sure what happened 589 according to him.
It sounds like that's when the Shema died down.
Ended, yes, but he says that the Persian kingdom, he said for the Persian kingdom actually continued until 650. He says, according to this, he says it sounds like times the Shema came now, and when the Sassanid kings came to their end at 589. Then because there was evidently at that time there was a great rebellion of the Persian in Persia by the army, and they killed the king, but not Yazgadar. Yazgadar was later on. This was Hormizad the fourth. Okay, he says so. I guess after Hormizad the fourth was killed, so the main Shema came to then, and still it was not great. But he says here, but normally the Jews preferred the Persian kings before the Arab conquest and the Arabs after the conquest. Okay. The now he says here that also that Marchanan Me'ashkia, who even though he opened a yeshiva in Pumbedisa, he reopened the yeshiva in Pumbedisa.
I was like,
Uh,
no, duh. But,
no, but it said before, right? Silent Mila. In other words, the yeshiva in Narado was open, not by him,
okay,
right? He opened the yeshiva in I don't know if he reopened the yeshiva in Pumbedisa.
I don't know.
Uh, because the yeshiva Prush Shavar, which you spoke about in the previous paragraph, existed evidently simultaneously with this yeshiva. Uh, so and he says this is going to come clarified later on. So this rabbi was in Pumbedisa, okay, and Ubasre from Rabbi Marchana Meashkaya. Ubasre, and after Malacha Mori Zakinenu braided about Dimi Horenu. Mara Mori is I guess his grandfather was the son of Mara of Dimi, I guess his great grandfather. All right. Base
Okay,
Medishoba Pro Shvor Noda Be Rab Mori Ad Hayom Hazeh. Okay, so it's very confusing. He's saying that he was in Pro Shavor, right, which is not Pumbedisa.
okay,
So I guess the Gaon, wherever this is one head of all the yeshivas who went back and forth between yeshivas.
okay.
And now we have another one. Mar Basura Mar Bar Bar Maramori Ben Mar of Hunagon. Shal Bishnaz Tatkav. And there was another Rosh Yeshiva in Surah. That's what he says at the bottom. He says, Liz Kano is Lo Mamash Alavi Avi V'chulis Kano. So it wasn't even grandfather or great grandfather, was his ancestors. And this base Medrash was in Bepro Shavor, and in 590, he died in 590. That guy was 590. Okay. That's not very long because we were just talking about 589 before.
Mm,
Um, okay. Anyway, so Achri Rav Mori Horenu, after Mori, his ancestor, Moch Ben Ardoa, which is the same as Prushavor. And the Rabbeinu was not clear why he keeps changing back from Prushavor to Nardoa. It goes back and forth and back and forth.
mhm.
And Ma'arachina min Bigahara uviyamav yatsu Muhammad la'olam. Really? That early?
He was in the
Uh,
600s.
yeah. So he says, let's see what he says here. Oh, he doesn't even explain. So the in Rabbi Benjamin says Muhammad revealed himself at 613. So Biyamov is going Rabbi Chanina Bey Guhara, and he evidently was became the head of Narada in 590, and he was alive still, also in 613, right, or later when Muhammad became famous. Rab Mori in Pumbedisa and Rab Mar in Surah, they already died. Okay.
Okay.
There is a girsa in the printed text, which we don't have here in the screen text. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, I guess that's what the Rambam calls him. Um, the Rambam Iggeres Tema calls him Mishuga. So he says perhaps the source of the Rambam is from the Iggeres Mishuga. Okay. Uh, uh, V'amid abasur beisi Rav Chanina umar bar Rav Chana Gaon Pumbedisa mar v'isa hu haya shaya beprush shavor eshikavsha Ali ben Abtulav. So he says that this is Rabbeinu says that Rav Shimon did not have extensive documentation about what happened in Surah. So therefore, he had to rely on certain traditions which were not, he said, which are oral. And that's it says for Omrim. And So the beginning of the period of Islam, he didn't know exactly when Rav China and Rav Huna
Mhm.
became Gaon, the leaders. Therefore, he gave it according to his Kabbalah, and he adds that Muhammad came out of the world at that time, and the Rav Mori were no longer there, but rather Chanina and Rav Huna. Okay, it's a little bit confusing here.
It sounds like
Um,
there were three yeshivot running in parallel.
yeah, that's what it sounds like, right? Um, uh, the it's interesting that he says that uh, Marav Yitzchak was in Prush Shavar when Ali ben Attab came. It's uh, it's he conquered it in around 640, and but he came only the official Caliph, which came his former his no Ali became the Caliph at 656. But I guess he was a general, and he
Mhm.
conquered it in 640. Yatsa Marav Yitzchak mean Prush Shvar, and Shvar and Rav Yitzchak went out from Prush Shvar, Likroso, to greet him. Big upon him, but say upon him the office. So he greeted him with a positive countenance, because evidently Yitzchak felt that by meeting Ali, that certain Batista were no longer in danger, and therefore he closed Prush Shvar. Prush Shvar Yom Ha'u Tishim El Misro, V'Kiblu Ali ben Abtulav V'Sever upon him Yafos. So I don't know where Rabbeinu says at that point he closed Prush Shvar. But I don't know.
Okay.
It doesn't.
You don't see that in the text.
Yeah. Uh, so they don't see the text right. Um, you got to. I know where you got to get from somewhere. Um. Anyway, 90,000 people. He
A lot.
says went to greet Ali ben Abi too. That's a lot of Jews. He says here, Rabinowitz, that this greeting, this meet and greet, occurred at the time of great civil war among the Muslims, when the Umayyads rose up against the fourth Caliph, who is Ali ibn Abi Talib. And I guess even though the Umayyads rose up against him, the Jews wanted to uh, express solidarity with him against the Umayyads. Okay. Um, uh, okay. V'achar Mar bar Rav Rabba. And then afterwards came Mar bar Rav Rabba Shetikna b'yomim. Then they made a takkanah in his day. Let's say it's get la'al to isha to give a get immediately to a woman. The lav kishmaitz of the kal seder Rav Zvid, not like the sugi of the kal Rav Zvid, which we'll see in a moment. Yom el yah basura Mar Rav Huna Gaon. Let's see the story here. Isha Mashamorda Babala, a woman who rebelled against her husband, Bakeshi Tain La Get. The wants her to get a get. Omru Bagmara Bksubas Chasam Damav, the ain't nothing get miyad el mashina la treya sayarchi shata gitu. Wait 12 months. Ulai ben asai tachzorba. Maybe she'll renege. Mirab Nosi shows the so goim alime, but you're going el motim abalim kepikvia. They're Jewish girls who determined they would get quicker, and so they hired goyim to beat their husbands and compel the get in, and the goyim were afraid that these kids were apostle because they were compelled getting and not getting. Therefore, they made that they should be given immediately. Not
Okay.
like the Shmai Tzakasa Tzvi, Ksuvasama Gimel, that says there that you wait 12 months.
Mhm.
Okay, and then this is they then Surah Maravuna was the going. So
Okay.
second here. Um, the there's a whole discussion here in a footnote about when this takana actually took place and whether it actually took place here. It's a long discussion here. Um,
Okay, but I don't think we have to get into it.
okay, no, just 1 second. Um, Mm. Okay, no, as long as slash by you're right, we don't have to get into it. Okay, yes, okay, we'll stop here then. Okay, fine. Let me just make a note here. Okay, I'll stop recording.